Well, everybody, I'm Cantonese Cat. Everybody, Cantonese Cat here. I want to revisit a video that I did back in September 2024. The stock Palantir, which currently is my biggest holding, price back then was around $37, and a lot of folks were saying, hey, sell the rip because it is hitting some resistance zone. You don't want to just end up losing money here, take your gains and run. And instead of doing that, I basically made a video saying why you may regret selling any share of Palantir over the next 12 to maybe even 18 months. And I said I'm extremely bullish. And I think it's important to kind of go back to that logic and to tell you what I was looking at and also what I'm thinking could be the next Palantir, and to go through some charts and explain to you guys as to why that is. Here it goes.
This is the monthly chart. I'm showing the Bollinger Band here. I gotta say right off, start off the bet, I'm extremely, and I'm not gonna like hold back here. I'm extremely bullish on how Palantir is gonna do over the next 12 to 18 months. Make no mistakes about it. I'm gonna try to tell you why I think that is, but make no mistakes about it. I'm extremely bullish on Palantir over the next 12 to 18 months. There could be some pullback, and pullback can be extremely brutal, like 30% or something like that moving forward. And that would be the volatility that it would be needed for it to go up higher. But I'm seeing some things here that is really telling me that like you don't want to stand in front of this moving train, even if you're looking at levels, you're looking at resistance levels. It's just like catching a falling knife on the other side. If things are just extremely bearish, you're trying to catch a falling knife, you don't know when the falling knife is going to end up hitting the floor. You just don't know. Same thing here. It is basically the falling knife, but on reverse. You just don't know where this train is going to stop. It looks like it's got like a ton of momentum, which is just absolutely incredible. I'm going to talk to you about a few indicators I'm seeing. First off, this is a monthly chart. I'm showing the Bollinger Band here. Bollinger Band is basically calculated by the standard deviation of the 20-month moving average. So you're not going to see the Bollinger Band until you have about 20 candles, and that's when you actually can start calculating the moving average and the Bollinger Band together with it, right? The Bollinger Band is a way to kind of think about this. It helps that whenever price is very strong in terms of having a bull trend or a bear trend, it tends to ride up or down along the upper or the lower Bollinger Band. When things are just really bullish, it tends to just keep riding up along the upper Bollinger Band, and anything that's a little bit above the upper Bollinger Band can be considered to be overextended. And for a lot of traders, they don't like things that look overextended. And when I see things that look overextended, they sometimes see it as a way to, they get like all these Bollinger Band traders, all these folks that are looking at this and they're like, I don't know, it's overextended. Look at what happened before. You end up going sideways. It keeps on just trading in the $5 range nonstop. Here it traded $5 range for like the entire like 8 months, right? So yeah, it's overextended right now. It's going to come down. It's an opportunity short. I don't know about that because right now it looks like it has some escape velocity. I'm going to show you as to what I meant by that. If I think about Bollinger Band, there are two things I think about. Bollinger Band number one is that it's basically a way for price to kind of ride up along and kind of show you where potentially price action could be moving forward. It does serve as a little bit of a resistance. For example, like over here, if it's get a little bit too far extended, it generally gets rejected and goes down, right? It doesn't always have to be resistance if the trend is very bullish. As a matter of fact, if the trend is very bullish, if the price is very volatile, things continue to just kind of go up, it actually would drag the upper Bollinger Band up along with it, allowing the price to even go up even higher over time. And it would also expand the Bollinger Band both to the upside and also lower Bollinger Band also would expand to the downside to tell you that there's a lot of volatility that's happening right now. But or just price moving is just very strong. The way to kind of look at Palantir right now is this. Like I'm starting to see a very nice re-expansion of the monthly Bollinger Band. These things are generally very bullish. Like if you start to have the Bollinger Band expansion and the 20-month moving average is pointing up, these things are generally very bullish. Like this look really does remind me of what like Bitcoin did over here. I'm going to kind of zoom out here a little bit to kind of show you what I kind of meant by that. I've done these comparison charts over here before, but I just want to basically kind of show you what I think it is. It really reminds me of Bitcoin the bull cycle from like 2015 all the way to like 2017, it really does remind me of that. Like, do I think it's the early stages? No. I think we're probably somewhere around the mid stages. I think we probably have ways to go over the next like 12, maybe 18 months. What I'm showing you here is like you basically over here, because of this downtrend and downtrend deceleration, you have the Bollinger Band initially is very, very extended, right? Very, very much expanded. And then it starts to contract because of the sideways movement over here. And you have an initial contraction. You have some pretty impulsive price action over here, push against the upper Bollinger Band here. Cause a little bit of a re-expansion of the Bollinger Band. And you have some sideways over here for a few months. You have a little bit of a recontraction. And then that's when the big move happens. But when the big move happens, that's when the monthly Bollinger Band can completely just expand out wide. With the low Bollinger Band, which can all go all the way down to like the negatives. Like you can see the low Bollinger Band is right there, right? So what am I seeing here? Again, for Bitcoin during this cycle, initially you have a little bit of contraction, expansion, contraction, and then huge expansion, right? What are we seeing here? Contraction, expansion, contraction. We might be beginning that parabolic phase right here.
I played about 6 minutes of that video because I think it's very important to kind of conceptualize what I meant when I'm talking about other stocks could be Palantiring. What happened since I made that video back in September? Well, let's talk about it. We had the full Bollinger Band expansion that happened. The Bollinger Band expansion, the full Bollinger Band expansion happened in October, right? It just went all the way down. Currently, the Bollinger Band is still expanding to the downside. Currently, Palantir is still a very, very impulsive stock here. Currently, Palantir is still having a very parabolic move up here with the 20-month moving average still going up. And price, as I have mentioned before, it can have these crazy 30%, 40% volatility. And it did exactly just that. And currently, the momentum is still very, very strong. It's still pushing up. And it's been less than 12 months since I made that video. And I am seeing that it's trying to start to hit some of these very important resistance levels up here above. But because the momentum is still very strong, I am not selling out of this, right? I am going to see how it reacts at the 1.618 log fib level here, which, again, you can have any of these crazy 30, 40% volatility here. But because the trend is so strong, there's not really any reason for me to particularly want to sell at this particular period of time. One thing is, you're talking about the Bollinger Band expansion whenever price gets too close to above the previous high over here, which I think once it starts to break the 0.86 log fib, it really is building up a lot more momentum to the upside here. And that's being shown the full Bollinger Band expansion here on the monthly. Those are the two criteria that I'm mostly looking at is, number one, does it have that full Bollinger Band expansion that looks like it's going to happen soon? Number two, is it breaking about the 0.86? At least at the very minimum, it would be nice to break above the 0.786. And we can talk about what are some of the candidates here that are potentially the next Palantir or that are Palantiring, which is kind of a little bit of a lame term, I know. But I think most people are looking for, from a technical standpoint, what could be the next Palantir, because Palantir has made me some pretty impressive gain. I'm very happy in terms of what Palantir has done since I made that video. And I hope that you listen to that particular video. Not financial advice, I'm just telling you what I'm doing and what the journey end up happening and what other things I end up seeing could be happening. This is not an advice for you to sell or to buy, because I have no idea what your financial situation is. I'm just holding spot. I'm not doing any leverage. I don't like to use any options or anything crazy here. But the candidate number one, and this already has been playing out extremely beautifully, is really Robinhood. This is number one here. It broke above the 0.86 log fib here back in May, and since then it's just been going parabolic. It already had the Bollinger Band expansion all the way happened many, many, many months ago. You can see upper Bollinger Band is expanding, lower Bollinger Band is expanding all the way down to the downside. This is already playing out. Like, this is really no-brainer in terms of what it could do, because it's broken about the 0.86 with Bollinger Band expansion fully. It can hit some of the targets up here above. There is no doubt about that. Do I want to chase something like that? Probably not. But Robinhood is my number one pick for Palantiring. And to me, currently, there's not really any question about that. Number two, what is happening here with a stock that I've been talking about, that I've been very bullish on, and that I just made a video on it recently, is Coinbase. Coinbase is starting to have that Bollinger Band expansion here. Coinbase has broken above and close above the 0.86 log fib here, and is trying to make all-time highs. It already had a wick that is above the previous all-time high over here. With the Bollinger expansion, I expect that Coinbase is going to make some pretty nice parabolic move. Now again, you can have these crazy plus or minus 30% move on the way up, or 40% move on the way up, which is sometimes, if you do these short dated options, it can completely ruin you. I don't advocate you to do margin. I don't advocate you to do any like crazy leverage plays, but I do see Coinbase being pretty bullish here moving forward, and it could be Palantiring. And Coinbase, based on the Bollinger Band expansion, based on the fact that it's close to about 0.86, is my number 2 pick for Palantiring. What is another candidate for me to think about Palantiring is IREN. IREN is currently having the Bollinger Band expansion here on the monthly, right? It had that expansion, contraction, and right now is about to challenge the 0.86. It's not quite ready yet, which is why it's not my number 1 pick for Palantiring, but it is really getting close to trying to bring about the 0.86. Now, that's still going to be the final boss, and it may not happen, and we can go sideways here for a little bit longer, but the Bollinger Band expansion is telling me, hey, maybe something a little bit more impulsive is going to end up happening, and if it's able to break about the 0.86, IREN can go Palantiring as well, and that is my number 3 pick. Number 4 pick is Galaxy Digital. Now, Galaxy Digital, because it's just gotten to the Nasdaq here a couple months ago, I usually chart this using the TSX, or the Canadian version here, and what you can see here with TSX version of Galaxy Digital is two things. One is Bollinger Band expansion to the upside and to the downside, right? You're starting to have that really impulsive move here happening. The month is not closed yet, but currently it is above the 0.86. If we end up closing a month above the 0.86, there's a good chance that Galaxy Digital, ticker symbol GLXY, could end up Palantiring up here as well, with full Bollinger Band expansion, with a lot more impulsivity going on for Galaxy. And Galaxy Digital is my number 4 pick for Palantiring. Number 5 pick for Palantiring is a Chinese stock, is Futu. Futu Holdings, some people call it maybe like the Robin Hood of China, if you will. You can see that the Bollinger Bands is fully expanded to the upside and to the downside here on the monthly. Now, if the month end up closing above the 0.86, which again, it can still be a final boss to get rejected at, if it ends up closing about 0.86 here, and if it ends up having further Bollinger Band expansion, this thing, because it's been stuck underneath the 0.76 here for so long, and you had a breakout, it can keep going up a lot higher and make all-time highs and hit some of these crazier targets up here above. But this is my number 5 pick for what's going to happen with stocks that could be in a Palantiring. Number 6 is a stock that I talk about. Sometimes I do have a position, but not many people seem to be interested in it for some reason, and that's okay, is Cloudflare, ticker symbol NET. It's got a full Bollinger Band expansion. It closed last month about the 0.86, which favors for it to have further bullish continuation and for it to potentially Palantiring to hit some of these higher targets up here above. I can see that happening here because it has a lot of momentum. Number 7 is a little bit of an offbeat kind of thing. It's not really a stock, but it is silver. I actually see some great things with silver. Now, with silver, I'm not going to do monthly chart. I'm going to do a 3-month chart because that illustrates you the Bollinger Band expansion that is happening right here. And we also broke about the 0.786. The final boss is going to be 0.86. If it breaks about 0.86, then silver could potentially end up Palantiring here as well. I don't have any silver. I don't really like to play silver, but I cannot deny that this is a bull trend that looks like some more impulsivity is going to happen here. And it's still not really broken about the 0.86 here quite just yet. It still needs to do that before I can really be convinced that maybe silver is going to Palantiring, but that is also another candidate of mine. Number 8 is SoFi Technologies. SoFi Technologies, if you look at the monthly chart here, Bollinger Band is starting to expand here. We just got rejected here, 0.86 log fib. And I don't really expect it to push it through the first time because that's the final boss. You got rejected here, you rejected here. We're finally challenging that area. If it's not able to break through here, then we get stuck here between 0.786 and 0.86 until further notice. But if we end up pushing above, and it looks like it could because the Bollinger Band is very, very much expanded, it tells you that a lot of impulsivity, a lot of volatility is happening. Then if you break above the 0.86, then some of the higher targets up here could potentially be met here for SoFi, and SoFi could be my number 8 candidate for Palantir. Number 9 candidate is a little bit of a laggard. I don't see it happening quite just yet. I'm still eyeing it. I have a position, is Affirm. Affirm is doing affirmy things where it is having some bullish band expansion here, but is at a lower level of 0.707. It needs to break about 0.786 and 0.86 here before I'm really truly getting convinced that Affirm can keep going up a lot higher, but it could be a candidate for Palantir because the bullish band expansion and because of 0.707 has been the resistance level here for a very long time. Once we break above, we might end up hitting the 0.76 and 0.86 in a hurry, and we can see what happens there when it gets there. Number 10 candidate that I have a position on is Shopify. Shopify has been having a bullish band expansion here to the upside and a little bit to the downside here. Is getting closer to 0.86 over here. Once we break about the 0.86, which is going to be the final boss, some of the higher targets up here is possible. All right, this is Palantiring candidate number 10. And then finally, Palantiring candidate number 11 I have is, and that you are going to laugh, is Tesla. Tesla simply couldn't break free above the previous all-time high here because the bullish band hasn't simply been expanded yet. It is getting rejected here, 0.86 over here. Now, it is building up some more energy, mostly forming higher highs and higher lows. If it breaks above the 0.886, there's a good chance that Tesla could end up going Palantiring because of bullish band expansion. This is going to be the final one, I think. It's not nearly as maturely formed as the others, but I see a potential for Tesla to go Palantiring. If it's able to break about the 0.86 because of how volatile this thing is, you're going to end up having bullish band expansion. And if it ends up keep on riding up, you're going to end up having full bullish band expansion and hit some of these higher targets up here above, around 600, 700, and 900s. We will see, right? Ultimately, all these things I'm talking about are all speculation. I want you to do your own research. I want you to think about the liquidity cycle. And I want you to think about the potential risk that getting into some of these volatile stocks would involve. Because for a stock like Tesla, it went all the way up to the 480s and it dropped all the way down to the 2 teens. It went plus or minus like 60-some%. And it's still forming higher highs and higher lows. And it's still forming a bull trend, right? Can you imagine if you use leverage, you can get margin called? Can you imagine if you use, calls and option strategies? These things can completely wreck you. But with that said, I just want to tell you what I'm seeing here with these 11 tickers, and I am quite bullish on a lot of them. I am invested in a majority of them that I've talked about. And I can be completely wrong, and you can decide to be wrong with me or not. Completely up to you. Thank you so much for listening to this video. I think what I'm going to do with this video is I'm going to release it with Danny's Patreon and also with the great Mattsby's Patreon members to share with them my thoughts. And a few days later, I'm going to release it to the public and share these thoughts. Thank you so much for listening to this long video. And I'm sorry to make you listen to a few minutes earlier of an old video, but it's important to take into context in terms of what my thinking process was back in September of last year and what that would translate to what I'm seeing with these stocks here in mid to late July of this year. Thank you so much for listening. Have a good one. Bye.